Today we're going to do something called completing the square to solve a quadratic equation. It's something that's pretty useful later on when, well, you have to use it, the technique at other times. And in grade 12, you have to use it and do this analytical geometry and algebra of circles. So it's kind of important. Okay, so if we have x squared minus 4, we could just equals 0, and we wanted to solve that equation. We could just factor it into x minus 2, x plus 2 equals 0, and see that the two solutions are x equals positive 2 or negative 2, which you can write in shorthand like that. But there's another way to do it. What you could do is add 4 to both sides of the equation, have x squared equals 4, then take the square root of both sides. And you know the square root of 4 is 2. And the square root of x squared is just x. And there's actually two things that will make this true, positive 2 or negative 2. Well, completing the square is all about taking the left-hand side and writing it somehow as a square of x in brackets. So if you have a trinomial that you can make into a square of x, then you've completed the square, and you can take the square root of both sides to get solutions. Let me show you one like this. This one factors x squared minus 2x minus 8 into x minus 4 times x plus 2. So you have your answers and you're kind of finished. But I want you to show you this completing the square thing, because some questions don't factor. And you can use it to find solutions for those equations, quadratics that don't factor. Well, how would you do this? Well, the first thing you do is move the 8 over to the other side. And now to complete the square, you always do the same thing, and you just have to learn it. You always take half of the coefficient of the linear term and you times it by itself. Well, that means half of the number that's in front of x, that's the linear term. You take it, half of it, half of negative 2, which is negative 1, and then square it, negative 1 times negative 1, and you get a number, and you add it to both sides. When you do that, we say you've completed the square, because you can do something special. You can just write down a bracket, go x minus, and write that same half of what's in front of x. Put it down there, x minus 1, and then square it. Now, if you do FOIL on this carefully, if you multiply it out, you'll get back to here. Well, now we've written this as a perfect square here, x minus 1 squared, and 8 plus 1 is 9. Now you take the square root of both sides, the square goes away. The square root of 9 is plus or minus 3. Well, there's two answers here. You bring the 1 over, 3 plus 1, which gives us this 4, or minus 3 plus 1, which gives us the 2. Well, that seems like a pretty hard way to do it. If you can, you should factor. But if you couldn't factor, you can use completing the square to figure this out. Here's a question where you can't factor. X squared minus 4x minus 3 equals 0. You can spend all day trying to factor this, and it just won't work. But hey, you can figure out the solutions now. This one does have solutions. We can figure them out now using completing the square. Well, first I add the 3 and move it over there. Then I take half of the coefficient of x, half of the number that's in front of x, and I square it. Well, half of negative 4 is negative 2. Negative 2 times negative 2 is positive 4. I add it to both sides. 3 plus 4 is 7. And this part here, I can just write as x minus half of this number that's in front of x, minus 2. X minus 2 squared. See, that's called completing the square. Then you square root both sides. The square 7, you get root 7. But there's always two answers with this, positive and negative. Two roots, positive and negative. Then we bring the 2 over. So the two answers are root 7 plus 2 or minus root 7 plus 2. And there's our two solutions. We've got 7 questions to practice. And it's really good to learn how to complete the square. And it's not hard. You just have to learn the technique and do it. So hopefully you will be able to. And you can use this video and watch it again and again to try and get it right.